15 years ago, I got into the alkaline water and began marketing machines because even though I did not agree from a chemistry perspective that the pH was helping, something was going on and I needed to figure out what it was. And so when I talked earlier about helping my wife with the issues, that was the first technology I used to try and help her. And it did initially help her. But what we need to understand, there's many different thoughts we need to have about the pH of water. pH is potential hydrogen. So we're taking a reading on a scale of 0 to 14, and basically people promote these systems as the miracle cure, right? Like, oh my gosh, you just drink this and all your problems go away. Well, that's not true based on pH. And really what happened, if we go back to 1800 when Dr. Carlisle in London developed electrolysis of water, what he was doing is creating a hydrogen generator because he had learned a couple years before that hydrogen had antioxidant properties in the body, and it was very profound. So we wouldn't say that hydrogen was a powerful antioxidant. Everyone wants to use these kind of words. It's actually a weak antioxidant, but what it does very well is hydrogen reacts with reactive oxygen species in the body, which are the worst radicals that are destroying cell function. So getting back to Dr. Carlisle developed electrolysis of water so that he could harvest the hydrogen gas and then put that in water so it could help people. Well, he basically did a great thing and did nothing else with it once he did that. I'm sure he used it for himself and so many people, but nothing else happened with it in society. Well, in 1930, a doctor in Japan, Dr. Mishasua, he wanted to research, hey, if I use this technology of electrolysis, what will it do for rice cultivation? And so he began a process in 1930 looking at rice cultivation. The result was more rice, better grains, better quality, less irrigation, and so the water did more for the rice fields. So that was great. After that, he went into plant studies and had success as well. And then in 1950, he began human trials to see what would this water do with people. Well, in these human trials, which lasted 15 years
wow.
to 1965, and at the end result, they proved that these waters out of an electrolysis machine stopped improper digestion, improper fermentation in the gut, and basically restored gut function, and so the digestive disorders could be helped. That's why the country of Japan in 1965 made these machines a medical device. And they flooded the market. Everyone went crazy, hospitals, doctors, everyone started drinking the alkaline water. What the problem was, they had not discovered what the mechanism of healing was. They made an assumption that it was the pH of the water, and they began teaching it as such, but that was because they didn't understand hydrogen gas was dissolved in the water. And in those early days, they were using what's called a batch ionizer, which basically has one cathode, one anode, and they would run the water and let it sit there, like those foot baths that you see. Effectively for half an hour, they would see this. So you're creating hydrogen, and because of doing it for half an hour, you definitely have hydrogen gas dissolved because you have contact time, you have surface area, and you're putting hydrogen gas into there. Well, for convenience, years later, they started making flow-through machines. Well, that's a completely different set of principles when you're trying to dissolve a gas. When you have a flow-through machine, there's very different principles that will govern whether or not you can actually dissolve hydrogen gas in the water or not when it's flowing through at a half a gallon a minute. So this was where the problem came. They used electrodes, and they would use multiple electrodes, but within a couple weeks, you would get calcium buildup on the cathode, and so when you get calcium buildup, you're no longer going to dissolve hydrogen. You just would have at that point alkaline water because you have hydroxides, OH minus, because you've moved an H plus over to make acid water, and you have the OH minus on the other side to make what they're calling alkaline. Well, there's no real benefit to the body to consume water that's just a higher pH, because A, the stomach will buffer it, and it'll go right into the duodenum because the caloric valve will dump it quickly in there. So there's really not that many benefits, but people were having benefits with the early machines, the batch ionizers, And people were having benefits when they would buy the brand new machines that were flow through, because for 2 or 3 weeks they'd have hydrogen, which would restore gut function, help with blood sugars, help with heart and blood pressure. They would have all these experiences. So then they'd want to give a big, huge testimony to everybody on how this helped me, but they weren't paying attention that after 2 or 3 weeks they did not have the same benefits. Yep. And so this was the problem. And so when I got into the industry, I started seeing these things going, why do I keep hearing people go, yeah, I had tremendous benefits at the beginning, but I don't feel anything now, and it's not helping me, and my issues have come back. And I was sitting there saying, well, why? I don't agree with the pH part of it, so what are we missing? And even for me, it wasn't until, 2007, 2008, that I had a PhD chemist that worked for me in my silicone gel company. And I said, okay, what do you think about all this mess? Here's all these reports and these studies supposedly that the alkaline water industry was giving people to prove that it helped. I said, can you read all this? I said, you have a PhD in water chemistry from Emory, right? So can you tell me if this is all hogwash, which I believe it is? So he came back the next day and he goes, I read everything you gave me, and you're right. Everything is nonsense. All the chemistry is completely opposite of what happens in real life. He said, the only thing I could find that really explains is this one study, and it talks about dissolved hydrogen having ROS scavenging capability. And I'm telling you, Karen, as soon as he said that, it just resonated through my whole body immediately. I knew it was truth. I knew that hydrogen was the answer, and that started my entire shift away from pH and going after hydrogen gas to understand. And once I understood that hydrogen gas was the answer, I started studying it. And I'll tell you what, I'm extremely passionate now about getting water into people that has hydrogen gas in it, irregardless of the pH, because that's unimportant to the body, and actually in some cases can harm people. We need to understand that some people who have urine or saliva pHs, or their internal functions of their liver, kidneys, and thyroid, for instance, that are either slightly too acid or too alkaline, you can really kind of mess up their system by giving them different pH waters, because it can do the wrong things. And so we need to be very careful in just saying to everybody, oh, alkaline water, because I don't think it's necessary. So we focus on neutral pH and having hydrogen.